Now, there are ships like the recently announced Legionnaire that I'll be talking about in a later video. But it is a ship that, while it's a cool idea, none of the supporting infrastructure that would be needed to make that ship work in game really exist. However, in the case of this ship, the Polaris, everything that you need to make this ship do its thing in the game is currently in the game and working. Ship-to-ship docking, check. We can do that now. Missiles, torpedoes, well, we've had that since forever. Weapons too, engines, everything you need to make this ship basically work and shine in the game is in the game. We're not talking about the Herald here with no hacking and no E-War or anything like that. Or even the Reclaimer with no salvage. Everything this ship needs to be what it is supposed to be is already in the game and has been working, in some cases, for years or since almost the very beginning. This is probably, generally speaking, the most beloved of the Corvette class of ships. This is the one that in my opinion, has the most broad appeal to most of the player base who can afford something like this. And I would probably bet, if I could pull the sales figures and see how many of these are still out there, it would probably be the most numerous. However, CIG has bizarrely never really put this ship into production. They've hinted at it. It has made brief slivers of appearances on the roadmap. Most recently, I believe it was supposed to have begun end of June-ish this year. They were going to start working on it. And then, yoink, it's gone. And I don't get it. I can kind of look at the roadmap and I can see all the unannounced projects, of course, funding for the future, things like the Legionnaire. Or I can look at the gold standards and say, oh, they're fixing up the ships and polishing them up for Squadron 42, right? But there are still other ships that are kind of going into production, some of which arrived after the Polaris, which, thinking that the Polaris, remember, originally came out as a concept ship sale in 2016, and we are now in 2022. The Polaris has been in concept longer than it took America to go from Pearl Harbor to Tokyo Bay. Okay? Let's maintain some perspective here. This ship has been a long time coming. And this is probably one of the best ships that could get into Star Citizen in order to showcase the game, even in its current state. It's a ship that begs to be built. Imagine this in a Ninetales mission or a Xeno threat. This thing would be absolutely devastating. You put that out in trailers and you show that as actual gameplay, people are going to look at that and say, oh my God, what is the name of this game and how can I start playing? This isn't like, one of these background ships that appeals to a small contingent of players. Yeah, there are going to be a small contingent that can purchase it right out of the box. But I guarantee you, even if the person is only buying the smallest ship in the game, this is going to be one of their end goals. This is going to be like the Anaconda or the Federal Corvette in Elite Dangerous. People are going to say, I'm going to get there someday. That's where I'm going. This is one of those ships. And to not have it in the game is just absolutely bizarre. So let's talk about not just the appearance of it, but what makes this such a great ship. Now, imagine a general purpose military combat ship built to go out alone on long patrols or as part of a fleet group if it so chooses. A ship that can carry its own fighter and service that fighter out of a launch bay. Now, that may be limited to basic repairs, fuel, and ammunition, but still, something that allows you to kind of project power or to scout out ahead of you. It has enough facilities to keep a crew alive in deep space for a long, long time. It even has a pool table on it. I mean, when you have enough space inside of your ship that you're like, what can we put in here? I know, a pool table. It means you've made efficient use of the interior space, unlike certain other ships. The Polaris was one of these ships that CIG has made that is just an out-of-the-box winner. It is just such a wonderful and well-thought-out design. Now, some people do argue that, this is just one of those times when they were lucky and form met function. But I honestly think that this was the product of somebody who looked at the other ships in Star Citizen, recognized the mistakes, and said, I can deliver the outside look that's said individuals want, but I can design the interior much more smartly than previous ships, and this is that ship. Its primary weapon is size 10 torpedoes. That's the biggest torpedoes you can get in the game, and it can fire 4 of them at once, with another 24 sitting in the ammo rack. So consider the firepower that this thing can drop on somebody. Now, granted, yes, torpedoes can be shot down by turrets, or they can be distracted by either flares or chaff, depending on what type of torpedo it is. But I have to think that there's going to be a little bit more of a skill check coming with missiles in the future. And it's not going to be so much as push a button, aha, missiles no good anymore. It's going to get a lot deeper and a lot more intricate. And I have to say that I feel that this is probably going to be one of those ships that in the hands of an experienced crew and captain is going to truly punch above its weight. There are certain ships that I am very, very cautious of, but I am very liberal in my praise of the Polaris because its starting point is just so strong. Now, look at the hangar. Now, the hangar ain't the missiles, it ain't the guns. It's not the most exciting feature on the ship, but a lot of people, remember, this is before pocket carriers and any of that nonsense. A lot of people were tremendously excited by this feature. Think about the doors that this opens up. You could carry around a Pisces in here, and that means you can get a whole bunch of people down to the ground and back again, or a little bit of cargo, bit of both. That opens up the door to allow you to accomplish so many missions without actually having to land the ship on the surface of the planet, where it could be tremendously vulnerable. If you don't believe me, just picture yourself down on the ground doing a ground mission nearby with this ship, and then all of a sudden an A2 Hercules flies overhead and drops a Moab. It's yeah, maybe not the best idea. You know what I mean? And that's, that door opens up because it has this hangar. But if we even look at the weapon systems on this ship, not just the torpedoes, yeah, it doesn't have very big turrets, but it is bristling, positively bristling with turrets, which kind of tells you that when this ship is making an attack run, if a smaller ship or a fighter is about to try and chase it into that attack run to try and, push it away from whatever it might be trying to protect, this ship's, okay, come on, buddy, you can follow me. Yeah, come on, you can follow me. Let's see how long you last. You're cute. It's just such a, it's so general purpose, but so well designed that I would have to argue that the Polaris is, of the Corvettes, for the general Star Citizen audience, the best. if I was given a choice between joining, let's say, 2 fleets, and one fleet was like, hey, we got an Idris, and hey, we got a Javelin too, or we got a Javelin and 2 Idrises. And then the other fleet was, well, we have the equivalent monetary value in ships, but it's expressed all as Polarises. I would join the Polaris guys. Because I would say that strategically speaking, that would be the superior fleet, because it can be in more places at once, faster. You can diffuse that firepower out over a wider area, and you can have different Polarises raiding in different areas and forcing the enemy to always be chasing you and jumping after you, and really kind of control the pace of the engagement, to really take the initiative right at the very beginning. And in my point of view, the Polaris is currently Star Citizen's strongest strategic weapon. And I'm not saying that in any way facetiously. The Polaris is incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. So much so that I sometimes, when I think about why hasn't CIG put this into production yet, is I almost feel like CIG is kind of waiting for enough players to kind of divest out of this ship and say, I'm sick and tired of waiting for this. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for that. So they can kind of pull this ship back a little and not get as much of a backlash from the community that they would get if, all the Polaris owners just stuck to their guns and said, where's my ship? Where's my ship? That's a little bit of a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat included, but overall, out of all the Corvettes, the Polaris is the strongest in my opinion. Not just as a pirate ship, but in general, for anyone, it is the strongest. The only things that I think could really limit it are the cost of ammunition for the torpedoes, obviously, and the difficulty in getting reloads. I think those would be the 2 limiting factors. But then again, because the Perseus, I would say its direct competitor, also has bespoke weapons with specific ammunition, being that you can't put energy weapons on those main turrets. The Perseus arguably is in the same position, and therefore that's why the Polaris kind of comes out in front in my book. So with all these strengths that we've talked about, all these great points about the Polaris, it does kind of beg the question, Minion, why don't you own one? Well, I guess you'll have to stay tuned.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.